friends, welcome to this new YouTube tutorial series. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Pong game with Python Kivy. Let me show you the game. For now, like this now, for example, now the Pong game goes like this now. If I slide now, I have to make sure I don't let the ball go off the screen. So I have to be waiting for the ball, be bouncing it back, and that's what we are going to be working on today. And also it's going to be updating this course right over here. So that's what we are going to be doing today. So let's get started. Hi friends, please, if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, and please do not forget to support me on PayPal. The link is at the description below. And also the source code for this game, the link is at the description below. Please don't forget to check it out. So let's get started. So right now, our first step is to import all the most important properties. And how are we going to do it now? We are going to start importing the most important Kivy properties we need. Like now, writing from Kivy dot app, import app. Then we are going to write from Kivy dot uix dot widget, import widget. Then from Kivy dot properties, then import them. We are going to import some important things, which is numeric property, reference list property, and also object property. So then we are going to write from Kivy dot vector, import vector. Then from Kivy dot clock, then we are going to import clock. The last thing we are going to import is from random, then import random, import randit. So that's our first step now. So our second step now is to create the app class, and let's do that right now. Let's write class, which is Pong app. Then we are going to call it app. Then right over here, then we are going to write def, the function, build function. We are going to create build function, which is build self. Then I think we are just going to write pass for this step now. So I think that's all. Let's go down. Let me put it right over here like this. So that's our second step. So our third step now is to create widget for our main screen widget for the game, where the game is going to be displayed, and the player with the ball bouncing off the screen, and where we are going to put our scores. So let's create a widget. We are going to write class, then we are going to call it Pong game, then open bracket widget. Then we are going to write, for now we are going to write pass. So I think that's all for our third step. Our fourth step now is to create a Kivy file. And how are we going to do it now? You are going to come right over here, new, and here's how you are going to name your Kivy file. Because I think most people get it wrong, like in this Kivy file. You are going to name it like this right over here. You are going to write Pong. You are going to write it exactly according to this name, Pong, this first Pong. Instead of writing Pong app.kv, write Pong. Let me show you. I don't know why I'm having this issue, but you come right over here, name it as Pong. Don't write the app, just write .kv. So I think that's what you are going to do for this step now. To create the Kivy file. And after you've created the Kivy file, now under here we are going to create we are going to write what we are supposed to put on the screen. So let's work on that right now. So now let's start adding this. We are going to add 3 classes, which is player, the player class, the ball class, the main screen class. So we are going to write player, then right over here we are going to give the size of the rectangular player, whereby he is going to be moving left and right. So let me give it this best size, 100 by 20. Let me write size right over here. Size, that is 100 by 20. Then we come right over here, write canvas. Then we give it rectangle. Then rectangle. Then under this rectangle, the position POS, we are going to write self dot position. You are just going to give it the default position, and also the size. You are going to just write self dot size. It doesn't still matter, it's just going to still refer to this size right over here. It's still going to, well, I just have to write it like that. So the next class we are creating now is the Pong ball. The Pong ball. We are going to create another class, Pong ball. Then under right over here, we are going to give it the size of 30 by 30. 30 by 30. Then right over right, we are going to create a canvas, and this canvas, we are going to call the name of the shape ellipse. Position, we are going to give it self dot position. Then size is going to be self dot size. Then right over here, we've created the what will I call it as, we have successfully created the Pong ball and the player object. So let's create the main screen, which is the Pong game. We are going to call it Pong game. So under this Pong, we are going to give it what we are going to do now is that we want to insert this player and Pong ball object into this Pong game, so that is going to display properly. The main reason why we are supposed to put them inside, but I think the reason why we put them outside now is for us to be able to, because they are object or something like that. They are objects, so there's a way we are going to reference them as an object. They are just not just shapes, but they are objects. But there's a way I'm going to show you how we are going to refer them as objects. So we are going to write ball. Ball is going to be Pong underscore ball. And also the player is going to be player underscore 1. And here's what we are going to do right over here now. We are trying to connect this now. Here's what I'm going to do right over under this Pong ball. All right, ID is going to I don't think for now, let's just leave it like this. It doesn't oh okay, well, let me check something right over here. So there's a way we are going to connect this ID. We are going to connect this, but just keep watching what I'm going to do. So right here, I'm going to, after this, I'm going to create a label on that. A label. Yes, I'm going to create a label, which is the score. Yes, a label, and under this label I'm going to give it the font size. That's the score. The label, basically the font size is going to be 70, and we are going to give it the position of center underscore X. And under this we are going to say root dot width then over 2.1, and the text, we are going to write text which is going to be str root dot score. We haven't created the variable, but I just have to put it like that, so that when I'm working on it, I just need to save time instead of wasting time for you right over here. So right over here, the next step we are going to do now is to write Pong ball. We are going to connect this Pong ball and player with this ID right over here. We are going to say Pong ball. Just watch how I'm going to do it here. Pong ball is going to be ID, which is Pong underscore ball. Trying to connect these two stuffs together right over here. And player is going to be player underscore 1. No, I'm supposed to do them separately. I made a mistake. Let me write right over here, center self dot parent dot center. Then right over here, I'm going to create the class for player. I'm going to write player which is going to be just the same thing right over here for this. So that's our fourth step now. So let's move on to the next step. Oh, before we continue first, before we move to the next screen, let's correct this stuff here. I saw it equal. It's not supposed to be equal to, it's supposed to be semicolon. So let's move on to the next step now. At the next step now, what we are going to be doing here is to create the class for both the player and the Pong ball. So we are going to create a class and call it player. We're going to write class, class, then player, player, then widget. We are going to write widget, then pass. And also for the Pong ball, we are going to write for Pong ball class, then Pong ball, then widget, then pass. So then under this player, let's write some script. Let's give it a defined property it's supposed to have, and we are going to call it. We are going to give properties velocity, which is underscore x is going to be equal to numeric property, which is 0. Then velocity y is going to be numeric property, which is going to be 0. And also right over here, we are going to write velocity, which is going to be equal to reference list property, then which we are going to give the property of the x and y, velocity x and velocity y. They are going to be defaultly 0. Let's put the equal to, and the normal default move function, which is to enable the player to move. We are going to write self dot pos, that's position, equal vector bracket times self dot velocity, yes, velocity plus self dot position. So that is what you are going to be doing. So let me explain this here, right over here. So let me explain this stuff here, right over here. The thing to notice is that we are trying to give this player a kind of property whereby the default value is going to be 0 when the when we run the program is going to give us the x value, the y value is going to be 0. There is no any kind of movement whatsoever. And also this function of move is to make sure that there's a way we are trying to there's a way in Python when we are programming with Python. Python is different from something like Unity game engine, like Unity software for making games. If it's Unity software for making games, the software has something that is much more useful for game development. It's not like where we have to be adding different kind of things to enable it, because Python is meant for how like it's not really meant. So for us to try to blend our program into a game form, we have to use something like clock or something. This property right over here, clock, import Kivy property. So we monitor the time frame and all those stuff. So we are creating a background for all these kind. We are creating a background for all these frames and seconds and all those. You unlike maybe game Unity software for making games. Um it's just the property, all those things just exist. We don't need to be trying to integrate or bring in new stuff to try and make it, that's what we are talking about here. So let's move on in creating the other class, which is ball class. So let's move on with it. So now let's create the class for the Pong, the ball, which is the Pong ball. This class right over here, the Pong ball class. And we are going to write class, then we write Pong ball, then widget. Right over here, we are going to write the same property, which is velocity x, y, and all this stuff. The same thing too. Just going to copy this and paste it right over here. So that's what we are going to be doing for it now. So our next step now, let's work on the our next step. So our next step now is to let's clear this Pong bulb widget since we have created it before. So our next step now is to create our object. Our objects, the objects. Now we are, instead of us just referring this to as shapes, this player, Pong ball, and what, so the player and Pong ball are shapes. We could reference them as objects so that we can be able to use them in movement of whether to try and move the object or to use the object, to use it as an object, not just as a shape just lying on the screen. So what we are going to do right now here, we are going to create a variable. Ball is going to be equal to object property. Object property is going to be none. The other one too, we are going to create player, which is going to be equal to object property, which is going to be none. And also, let's not forget, we are going to create our score variable. So we can be able to automatically link it right over here with this. We are going to write score. Score is going to be equal to numeric property. The default value of the score should be 0. So this is our other steps. So let's move on to the next step. So in this next step now, our next step now is to what we are going to do, like, create a variable, which is to make sure that when we start the game, the default what the objects are going to be doing on the screen, both the player and the ball. So what we are going to do right over here is that we are going to create a function right over here, and we are going to call it def. We are going to call the first one serve underscore ball. Then we are going to write self. Right over here, we are going to write self dot ball dot center is going to be equal to self dot center. So what we want to do now is to position the ball to be at the center of the screen. So when it starts moving up. When the game starts, it's going to start moving um, left, right, and diagonal position. So that's what we are going to do. So we are going to first position it at the center. Then the next step is for us to move the ball um, in any direction. So we are going to write serve.ball.velocity is going to be equal to vector. We are going to give it the speed of 9, and also we are going to rotate the ball. We are going to write rotate. That's to give it the position of movement, which is going to be, we are going to call it rand int, then from 0 to 360. That means it should choose any angle, 360 or random angle. Whenever the game starts, the random angle the ball is going to move at the screen. So that's for so for the player, then serve underscore player. We are going to write self right over here. Then under here, we are going to write self dot player dot center is going to be equal to self dot center. Then right over here, we are going to write self dot player, also the same thing, dot velocity, which is going to be equal to vector 0 0. So that's how we are dealing for this to the default, the start at the beginning. So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to, when the program wants to start, now what are we going to do for we are trying to give it a default value when the game starts, whether the object is going to be moving, doing certain things. So that's what it means by this serve ball and serve player. So let's move on to the next step. So in our next step, we are going to create a function which is going to be update. So we are going, the main purpose of this function is for us to be updating both the player and the ball per frame second. But for now, you may not understand what I'm doing right now by writing this update. It's at the end of the game, when we are getting to the end part, then you will get what I'm doing. Write self update self.dt. Then right over here, we are going to write self dot player dot move right over here. And also we are trying to connect the player object and the move from the move this move right over here. We are trying to connect the player object right over here, the player and the move object right over here, which is what I have been discussing about before. And also we are going to do the same justice to the ball object. self.ball.move. So that's what we are going to be doing right now for this stuff. So now in this next step, we are going to be working on moving the ball either left or right. So let's get started on this. So in this next step now, we are going to we are going to make sure that whenever the ball bounces whenever the ball hits certain part of the screen, it's going to bounce back. Whenever I hit any part of the screen, it's going to bounce back. And also, not only on that, we are going to be adding our score whenever it bounces within the screen. And not only that too, we are going to be moving our player too. So what are we going to do here? Right, we are going to come down right over this function, this update, right? And we're going to write if, then we are going to write self dot ball dot top is greater than self dot height. That means if it exceeds its boundary of the screen, either up or down, then what are we going to do right over here? We are going to write self dot ball dot velocity underscore y is going to be times equal to 1. So whenever it bounces and hit any side of it, either up or down, either it hits top screen, what it's going to do is going to bounce back and going to add the speed with times 1. It's going to increase the speed times 1. And also, not only that, we are going to increase the speed times 1. So in this next step now, under update, what we are going to do right over here is that we are going to make sure that whenever the ball bounces or hits any side of the screen, the ball is going to bounce back and is going to reverse back instead of it crossing its boundary. It's going to bounce back. The ball is going to bounce back. And not only that, we are going to increase the score, and also we are going to not only increase the score too, also we are going to learn how to move the player left and right. So what are we going to do? We are going to write if self dot ball dot top is greater than self dot height. That means what we are doing now right here is that whenever the ball exceeds this thing, what we are doing right here is that whenever the ball exceeds, what's the error that is showing right over here? Let me do like this. Is this self dot height? What we are doing now, what we are trying to do is that let me check this error. I don't know why it's giving error right over here. I'll bring it back like this. Let me write. So now in this our next step, here's what we are going to do. We are going to make sure and check that whenever the ball, instead of the ball, when the ball is moving 360 around, instead of it exceeding the screen, we are going to make sure that whenever it touches boundary of the screen, it's going to bounce back. Also, apart from that, whenever the ball bounces on the screen, we are going to increase the score. And also, apart from that, we are going to also make sure that we are going to move the player. We are going to work on us moving the player left and right. So how are we going to do that? We're going to write um if sorry, we are going to write self self dot ball, then dot top is greater than self dot height. That means if the ball is greater than if the ball exceeds the screen, the exceeds the boundary, what are we going to do for it? Then what we are going to do is that we are going to write self dot ball dot velocity underscore y is times equal to -1. And then what we are going to do is we are going to write self dot score is going to be, that means, let me explain this side now. Here, right here, whenever we shoot we are going to pass it by 1. The score is going to increase times 1. Then we are going to reverse the ball backwards in the opposite direction. And also, apart from it, this is for the top screen and the down screen we are working on. So when we hit any of this part of the screen, we are going to add our score. We are going to write self dot score is going to be plus equal to 1. So our other step now, what we are going to do right now for this side is also, if the ball bounces left or right, let me just copy this to save time. Copy and paste right over here. If the self dot this time, what we are going to do is the ball. That means if the ball now, what we are going to write here is that if ball, then we are going to write x is this time is going to we are going to write less than 0 or 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 self dot ball dot right, then which is self dot width. We are working on if the ball hits the left screen or the right screen. And this one is on the top screen. We are working on the top screen. So then we are going to reverse it by -1 and add score. So let's move on to the next step. So our next step now is to work on if our ball bounces down. I want to let you know that whenever our ball touches the down part of the screen, then that means we have already failed because we are unable to bounce the ball, or we fail to bounce the ball at the right time. So what we are going to do is that whenever it's game over, we are going to start the score again and restart the game. So what we are going to do is We are going to write if self dot ball dot y is less than 0. The next step we are going to do right now, we are going to say self dot score is going to be equal to 0. That means the score should be 0. That means the score is going to be 0. And also there is a way we want to restart the game. We are going to write self dot serve um serve ball. That means we are going to make sure that the ball starts at this beginning position, at the main starting point, where the origin. Whenever the game starts, that means the ball is going to be at the default place, and we are going to set the score to 0, which means the score is going to restart. So that's all for this one now. So the movement now, we are going to create another function which is on touch move. We are going to write on touch move, and whenever we what we are going to do now, we are going to enable us us to be able to use our cursor or our arrow, or maybe if we are using app, to be able to drag the rectangle left and right. So we are going to write self.player dot center x, center underscore x is going to be equal to touch dot x is going to be touch. So that's all for this step. Now let's move on to the next step. So now I think maybe our final step now for this, let's come over to this Pong application. And right over here, we are going to do something very important right over here. We are going to say def build self. Then under here, we are going to write game, create a variable called game equal to refer it to the Pong game screen, the Pong game class, which is the screen. Then the game dot serve ball. That means what we are trying to do now, we are trying to get all the we are trying to get the objects together. We are trying to get the objects. We are trying to add the object, like the ball objects and the player object. We are going to write again game dot serve serve player 2, and also we are going to write one more thing is that right over here we are going to write clock dot schedule interval. Under here we are going to write game dot update our update function right over here, this update, where we are going to be moving our player and our ball. And also what we are going to be doing here is that we are going to give it comma, then what am I writing here, game dot update comma 1.0 all over 60. That's the time frame. That's what we are that's what you are talking about, the time frame. And what we are going to do finally now, we are going to write game. We are going to now write return game here, and right over here we are going to come down right over here and write pong app bracket dot run. Just make sure you do that, don't forget that. So let's run it and see now. and see our result now. Um, it's showing an error right over here. Player one is not defined. Name error. Player one is not defined right over here. I think it's right over this Kivy file right over here. Player one, I think we are trying to refer to this thing. ID. It's supposed to be ID instead of player one. I made a mistake writing ID right over here. So let's run it now and see. Up, the game is working, but something is wrong right over here. Let's fix the bug right now. So in fixing the bug, first of all, the first issue of this bug is to move this core object, right? This core text right over here, right over the top screen, and I forgot to do so. So let me do that. I think right over here, what I forgot to do is that I forgot to bring this right over here. Come right over here and write top. Then what are we going to write on that top? We are going to write root dot top minus 50. So let's run that now. The score is right over now. It's now properly fixed. So let's fix the next thing now, which is the ball movement. The ball is not bouncing. It's not bouncing as. So let's work on that. And also, aside from that, I forgot to create the to make sure that under this player widget, to make sure to check if the ball collides with the player. So what we are going to do now is we are going to write so that the ball can be able to bounce. We forgot to do something, create a function. We are going to write BounceBall underscore ball. Then self comma ball. So right over here, if self dot collide widget, which is the ball, then what we are going to do right over here is that we are going to write ball dot velocity underscore y, which is going to be times equal to minus 1. And right over down here, we are going to come over to the ball. We are going to come over right over to this side, which is this ball side. And right over here, we are going to write something like we are going to write self. We are going to write over here. It's just independent from all of this if condition. Then we are going to write self dot player dot BounceBall ball, then self dot ball. So let's run it now because I made a mistake right over that time. Let me cancel it and check if it's going to work. It's having some issues. Let me fix them right now. So I think the error is right over here. I'm going to rewrite this stuff right over here, this Pong ball widget, because it's from right over here. I think it's making it not to bounce properly. It's not making the ball to bounce from left to right, or any kind of to make it bounce left and right. So I think it's from this class Pong widget. Let's rewrite it again and see. I'm going to write class Pong ball widget. Right over here, I'm going to write velocity x equal to numeric property, which is 0. Then velocity y is going to be equal to numeric property, which is going to be 0. And also I'm going to say velocity is going to be equal to reference list property, then velocity x then velocity y. Then I'm going to recreate the function, which is to move function. Then what I'm going to write over here, I'm going to write self.position equal to vector bracket times self dot velocity, then plus self dot pos. Let's try it again now and see if it's going to work. Let's run it now. It's still having some issues. Let me check the issue very closely. I think I have the script of it right over here. Let's compare this right over here. Class Pong ball widget velocity x numeric property velocity y numeric property velocity. It's not capital V, I think it's small letter V. Let's run it now. I think it's going to work properly now. Right now it's properly, it's now working well now. Finally, we have our game right over here. Now if we move it here, it's bouncing as it should be. So I think that's all for this tutorial. I think in our next tutorial we are going to color it and add sound and make sure that whenever we close this application again, it's going to save our score for us. So I think in our next video we are going to be adding sound, adding the color, and also saving the data, this our score right over here. So that's what we are going to be working on in our next tutorial. So thanks for watching and see you in my next video. Hi, please, if this is your first time watching, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button, and please don't forget to support me on PayPal, and the link to this project is at the description below. So thanks for watching and see you in my next video.